This latest round of talks is taking place at a time when the U.S. job market is showing signs of steady improvement, while China's economy appears to be heading into rough waters. George Haley, author of 2 books on China, spoke to VOA via Skype. He says many Chinese industries have large overcapacity.
For instance, in solar panel industry, China's production capacity is actually 200% total worldwide demand. You have 20 and 30% overcapacity in industry after industry that has received the government support: steel, auto parts, paper, chemicals.
Overcapacity, falling demand from overseas, and impending high unemployment could pose a real threat to economic and social stability as Chinese companies face the increasing challenge of turning a profit. Longtime Chinese activist Wei Jingsheng.
China's goal is still market access. Without overseas markets, Chinese companies will have to immediately focus on China's domestic market, but it would be very difficult, almost impossible, for all these export-oriented companies to turn around fast enough.
Wei and others believe the symptoms of China's current economic problems are rooted in the so-called Chinese model of development, which is directed and largely controlled by the state instead of relying on citizens' initiative and market mechanisms. Meanwhile, the alleged Chinese state involvement in economic espionage through cyber intrusions has been the focus of Washington's complaints towards Beijing since the beginning of this year. Michael Hayden was a former director of both the CIA and the NSA.
Comparing American espionage with Chinese espionage, I freely admit, because I headed 2 espionage agencies, that we go out there and try to steal secrets to keep Americans free and to keep Americans safe. We don't go out there to steal secrets to make Americans rich. The Chinese cannot make that statement with regard to their espionage activity.
On the Chinese side, in bilateral meetings held just a month ago in California, President Xi Jinping sounded an optimistic note on potential cooperation between the United States and China on cybersecurity.
Through earnest cooperation, doubts and mistrust can be dispelled. Going forward, cooperation in the area of information security and cybersecurity might indeed become a bright spot in bilateral relations.
But analysts say it would be difficult for cybersecurity to become a bright spot in Sino-U.S. relations and for foreign investment in China to remain unchanged if Beijing does not pull back on economic theft and espionage. Michael Pillsbury is a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute.
If they are proved to be engaging in really illegal exploitative behavior and deception that they promise they're not. This affects a lot of companies' investment decisions to invest in China. It would probably affect our Congress.
At the same time, analysts say the U.S. is determined to protect and preserve its competitive advantage in science and technology. Again, George Haley.
From the U.S. Position, economically speaking, it doesn't make sense to give up technology. It's the country's competitive advantage, and it's already under very significant challenge worldwide.
U.S. Vice President Joe Biden opens the strategic and economic dialogue, which concludes Thursday with the expected release of a joint statement. Natalie Liu, VOA News, Washington.